word, I guess.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So there, a company or an organization can follow certain strategy for making the developers work easy when they join the company. So that can be achieved. We'll discuss in this meetup. So the agenda of this entire meetup would be starting with introductions, and we had good introductions so far, and also we'll be discussing some aspects on how a MuleSoft developer will feel or experience his work, right? And also we'll follow by design looking at the API design template. um, we'll see the advantages of having a design template and how it helps in the onboarding strategy. And then we will also look at the API development template. We will be developing a template and seeing on how to publish it to the exchange, and also we'll be looking at how to consume it, um, and as a developer perspective, and how it saves efforts of a developer, and how it plays an important role in, like in the onboarding of a developer, right? We'll look at that, and at the final segment we will see the demo on how to integrate the design template we have performed earlier and also the development template. We'll be integrating those two, and that will uh, show us on what strategy we are talking on how to uh, help developers onboarding in a MuleSoft technology, right, in an organization. So that will be our agenda. And so when it comes to introduction, then we from this meetup is from the Columbus, Ohio, and this is one of the most active um, meetups in most of the states. Like I see Columbus a lot doing meetups than other states, and we've been performing a lot of meetups from 2019, 2018. Actually, if you see here on my screen, these are all the past events. So recent from the COVID time, we've been doing all the virtual meetups. I was active on 2019. I was there. I was an attendee. I also presented a couple of times. So if you see, we used to have so much fun during the in-person meetups. We used to have choose a good location, and then we used to um, talk about and the MuleSoft and presentations and new aspects. These are some of the photos taken at that point. So Columbus is one of the very active in meetups for MuleSoft, and I am Jyoti Kiran. You can call me Joe, and I am working for MuleSoft Professional Services from an year, and I am working on MuleSoft for more than 3 years. I've been working on different platforms and with different clients. I got exposure on working API-led connectivity, point-to-point integrations, and also launching MuleSoft on premise, cloud hub, as well as hybrid, and also different ways of implementing MuleSoft for batch processing or schedulers, or um, exposing as an REST API, SOAP API, and all. So that is my introduction, and I belong to Pi Dimensions is my employer, and so let's talk about MuleSoft developer experience. So being a MuleSoft developer, a developer will automatically tend to complete the training. That means every developer will not be uh, a developer. I mean, no one starts a MuleSoft developer as a career, right? So because we don't have um, MuleSoft on our bachelor's or engineers as a course to complete. So we'll need to learn MuleSoft through a training, online training or in-person training or any trainings. So first step would be, being a MuleSoft will be completing the training, so that he will understand how to operate and how to get it his hands on the MuleSoft. And then slowly one gets assigned to a project or a job, and he will be shadowing the resource, whoever is working as a senior already in the organization. So we'll shadow and we'll get to know on how to play with MuleSoft. So, and also, um, being a MuleSoft developer, you like to learn more, and you like to explore, right? So you will tend to join a MuleSoft meetup and groups like we are doing now, and talk and discuss on different ways of implementing MuleSoft. And one of the good aspects is taking a certification. Being a MuleSoft developer will enhance if you have certifications on it. And then we also, once we are good on the mules of technology and feel confident, like we know how and what will be done, then people like to be mule mentors and join more communities and share their experiences. Also, a MuleSoft developer will set a goal, like whether you want to achieve down the road, like in next 3 years or 4 years, whether you want to see himself as a MuleSoft platform architect or solution arc. So a goal will be set.
Uh,
So
yep. Jyoti, can I add something?
sure, Ralph, go ahead.
Yeah, and also, yeah, as a developer, you would also would like to ask questions on the forum, and then look for, yeah, before you become a mentor, you could also be a mentee or someone who would ask questions for the experienced one. So even not MuleSoft or not focusing on MuleSoft, you can ask questions from other person like who's expert in Java or who is an architect, so that you'll gain knowledge outside MuleSoft as well. And also blogging will also help you in also in gaining knowledge. So I mean also sharing your knowledge to others as well. That will also develop your confidence in developing your skills.
That's a very good point to notice. Yeah, being a MuleSoft developer, we always run into some kind of questions while implementing, and we post those questions over the blogs or forums, and people are really active. That really helps as a community. We grow helping each other. Thanks for bringing that up, Ralph. And when it comes to sharing experience, uh, I would share my experience. How did you get introduced to MuleSoft? For this question, right? Since I already told, like MuleSoft is not like Java or a SQL or a tool which people get trained from their bachelor's or engineering. So this is something which should get introduced to us in some or the other way. You all might be experiencing that, like we get to introduce some other way to MuleSoft. So I got introduced through my employer. Since MuleSoft is booming in 2018, 2017, I got trained and I got into the placed into a project, and then I started loving it, and I'm still sticking to it. And the next question, any experience in migrating to MuleSoft? So just this is similar to the question above, like we get introduced some people who are already been working in a software industry, and sometimes the client decides to migrate from one tool to another. In that case, they might move to the MuleSoft, and all the developers will be undergoing the MuleSoft training, and then that's how they end up learning MuleSoft. So that is also one scope. I'm sure some of you might be experiencing that, right? And the next question, what was your first experience in real time? So it's always fun to uh, perform something when you learned, or the skill you learn, right? You want to see how it works on the real time. So My experience was amazing because I developed a raml, and then I was able to mock it on the first project, and then I gave the client my API on and got the feedback on what corrections and all, so that saved a lot of time in implementing the right version of API, right? So that was a really nice experience. And do you enjoy being MuleSoft dev? Yeah, because it's always ongoing, right? It has a lot of ways to solve a integration or implement a integration. So I really like being a MuleSoft dev. And do you recommend MuleSoft? I recommend all my friends and people who are trying to get into IT and trying to have some peaceful life rather than Java development. Yeah, I would really encourage them to join MuleSoft. I also had some of my friends who got trained in MuleSoft and started working on MuleSoft. That's my experience. Now let's move to the real aspects of
Yeah.
today's.
Before you move there, there's a question, Jyoti.
Yeah, Ralph.
There's a question from Emmanuel Cota. Can the person use MuleSoft without IT experience?
Okay, that will be little challenging because working on MuleSoft will definitely need the background of Java or an object-oriented programming, or at least, I mean, you should have how to experience on web services first of all, because MuleSoft is mostly on web services. They should know REST services, SOAP services, and it's hard to explain someone who doesn't have an IT experience, like a service, a um, uh, and methods on how to call them. It's hard. It's challenging, I would say. But once they start learning it, it will be really interesting, and they will tend to learn that. What do you feel, Naresh?
Yeah, I think to Emmanuel's question, right? It is definitely possible. However, definitely the person might need kind of shadowing for the initial implementation, right? Generally, this is how in consulting we have junior developers and senior developers and tech leads and so on, right? So uh, the people who does not have any experience, they can start with the training, a self-paced training or instructor-led training, understand. But however, as Jyoti mentioned, this is completely a middleware, and there are many middleware concepts that person need to ever in order to fully succeed in the project. But the shadowing can help groom the junior developers.
Um,
True.
I can also share my experience. I came from a different background, like semiconductor. Before I moved to IT, I was I know basic programming, but when I once I moved to IT, I look for a person that could be my mentor. I keep asking questions, and then I did my own research. And then MuleSoft is actually great in good in this onboarding process. They provide the pre trainings and certifications. So sometimes you'll get certifications, so you'll get up to speed for sure. That even without IT experience, that will give you confidence and ideas on what topics to search on the web, or maybe buy some food in Amazon. I sorry, buy some books in Amazon.
Yeah, and also there is a beautiful training module from Salesforce. It's called Trailblazer. So if you go and register on the Trailblazer, then it's like very interactive tool. You can learn step by step with graphical UI, and it's like very interactive and attractive to learn also. Like it makes you very, it has its own way, like playful way on teaching the MuleSoft. So I really recommend you to explore on that Trailblazer. That will help. So it's like a walking a trail. It makes you, it takes you all the way to the certification from the beginning. Okay, and let's jump into the API design using raml. So API design can be performed in other ways as well, but MuleSoft provided its own language. It's called RAML. It's a RAML. The definition means RESTful API Modeling Language. So in this, we define a resource, or we design the API, and during this process, right, we have to develop a lot of APIs, but we don't need to write um, all the like common functionalities again and again. That will be a lot of redundant code. So to avoid this, MuleSoft has this um, concepts called fragments and traits, right? So here, a trait, if you if your API exposes a raml that users might need to refer, then the API definition should reliably have the detail of all the elements that is expected in call of your API. So that means you are having, I'll show you a demo. Basically, what we're trying to say here is, we define the common functionalities in a place, and that place is called a trait, and that we reuse instead of we just call that instead of rewriting everything. Okay. And so here I've provided an example on how a trait will be. So, for example, if our API has a security of client ID enforcement, and these client ID and client secret are passed to our API through generally query parameters. They can be also in the headers, or depends. So, if it is in query parameters and this is across all the APIs we develop, in that case, we can define a RAML with traits as a tag, and RAML would understand that we are defining traits, and then followed by the trait name. Here we are writing the trait name as client ID required, and it has what, like headers or query parameters or JSON body. So you define that here. So we are defining as a query parameters, and RAML understands that it's expecting the query parameters and the name of the query parameters and the type. So once we define the trait, and we expose that trait through exchange, or I will go through that. Once we expose that trait, then we can use that trait, and then you can apply this trait in any individual operations like below. So products is a resource. My API will be called using products. In that, it's a get request, and since it's a get request, we define the type of method of the request, and then we'll mention that it is a client ID required. So whenever we mention this in this square brackets, then it will call this traits here. So in that way, we don't have to redefine the client ID enforcement entire code. Traditionally, we might write everything in is. Instead of is, we will define the query parameters and then client ID, client secret. And to avoid that, we'll design the trait and call it with is. Okay, I hope that is clear. Okay. And when we go to the next slide, so here we will have a demo and like a working session on how to create a RAML template. So first we go to the design center, create new and new fragment. So I'll show you. So once you have registered to the Anypoint platform, it's simple. You all can register, and then you log in into the Anypoint platform, and on the normally you wouldn't see this page. It would be something like this. So you click on this hamburger. This is the welcome page of the Anypoint platform, and here is the hamburger button, and we click that and go to the design center. So whenever we design an API, we start from the design center. That is the place where we create the RAML. Okay. So here, as we saw, design center, we came in and create new. So here is the create new button, and we are creating a fragment. So we are defining some the reusable components before even designing an API. That's what we're trying to do. So we create a new fragment and give the fragment name. Here I will give it as a template API, right? And also I'll define it as a library. So something we refer the predefined, like we refer the books from the library, right? In the same way we define the predefined resources from as a library. And then I already created one, so let's go with the health check. So here I have the health check defined, and this has the resource type and check as a um, value to it, and it is a get resource, and this has a description, response body, right, and the type. So this type is mentioned on the top, health check response. This is, and we define the object, and what all properties is it has, we have to define that, like all the fields and these values, like timestamp. These are all the different fields in that object, response object.
Can you
Okay.
zoom the screen? Try to zoom the browser
Oh, okay.
screen.
I'm sorry, it's really small.
Yeah, it's good now.
Thank you, Nagesh. So once we write this trait in the library, then we can expose this. So if you click on the publish and publish to exchange, that's how you exchange a library. You publish a library in the exchange. So I've already published this with the version 1.0.0. I can't do override that version. That's the reason. Even if I try to do that, it doesn't let me. So I have to increase the version every time I make a change before I publish. So once you publish, your API, your fragment will be appearing in the exchange. So you click the hamburger button here and go to the exchange. So you will see these are all the different kind of fragments I exposed, I published. So our health check is here, standard health check. Now, since we have, these are all the similar kind, like we write the fragments and we publish them. Each one does its own functionality. This one is for health check. Whenever an application is up and running or not, we check through an health check. Like it is simple get call, which responds if the application is up and running. And these are the standard errors. So every time we define API's resources and also the success responses and also error responses. Some errors are something where we can reuse every place. Like we can have the standard errors. That's the reason we have the standard errors. And this exchange also provides you all the description. Even a non-technical person can understand what this API is saying. Like we can have the documentation and detailed description. We can have uh, entire notes in this API, and this can be visible whoever you publish it to. So it has details, and here you have all the other options like version details, and you can even download this as a raml fragment, which we don't need to. So now we have the fragments ready, as you saw. Now let's go back to the presentation. So we have seen on how to publish to exchange whatever the fragment we develop, right? And now consuming the template from exchange. Now designing a raml, let's design a template now which uses this already predefined fragments. So Yeah. So yeah, Amanat, to your question, library and fragments, they are the same. It's just that the fragments will be saved in a library, as a library, I would say. Yeah. So designing a ramen. So you know the steps, right? You first go to the design center and then create new. This time we are creating a API specification with its name again. Okay, and I've done that to save time. This is called the template API specification. So here we develop the code, um, define the API. As simple as this is like we, we have a requirement on getting the products of an products. We are exposing a API which has products, and as I told, we have a health check. So normally, health check in the sense we'll write the response and all, what it does, right? So let's go step by step. This is the template specification ramen. So here I have provided the media type of what type this API is, and also I have provided the resources like health and products. If you know the basics of ramen, then you this all makes sense. um, so how to use the exposed APIs, right? So there is a button here, it's called exchange dependencies. So if you click that and click on the add dependencies, I've already added them here, that's why it's showing up there. If not, it will be blank. So right now let's delete this standard errors from here and try to import it. Now my raml shows it's there are errors, like there are no reference found for the error handlers. So that means it's missing the exchange module. So I go to the exchange dependencies and add dependency and look for error, API standard error. So I click on this and add dependency, as simple as it is. And once it comes in, we defined a, we uses this uses keyword, and then whatever you wanna invoke, the common fragments which we published in the library here. So standard errors is the name. It can be your custom name, any name. So that you have to refer while using wherever you want. Like the standard errors I will be using it in all of my resources. If I have one more resource like products and finance or something like that, then these, right? And I will be using the standard errors dot error handler. So this shows like if something, it handles the errors by default, because we defined all the errors inside this error handler. If you want to see, so it has responses like 400, 401. All the responses are defined. We don't have to rewrite all of this. We can just import this fragment here. That's how we use this uses, and then we define health check, standard errors, security schemas, the client ID enforcement we spoke earlier, right? Like we give the in the query parameters. So if you, here on the right side you can see the resource names which we mentioned here in a graphical format, right? And also we'll get to test this. If you click on the get, let me enlarge this for you, so you'll see all the responses we mentioned. So if you really see here, I haven't mentioned any 200 or 400, but I have 200 here. uh, Instead of that, I can write a fragment, or this is my custom, right? Not all the products have the same response, so that's why I haven't imported anything here. It can be my kind of response, right? So this is something which is common across the board. That's why we defined it here, and it has the success body. This will be common for all the APIs, just that the asset ID will change or the app name will change, right? That can be dynamic again. So these are all the coming from the error handler modules. Okay, that's how you can see. And the client ID thing, once you go down there, you can see the security in the security. So here you can see the app supports client ID enforcement authentication policy. So to try this out, um, there will be a try button, make public spec by default. So there is a try it button here, right? If you click on that, then you can try and see how your API is responding. Health check, get, try it. So when you, this is how you send a request to this API with this URL, and these are the basic authentication, which is the client ID thing we spoke earlier, right? It's asking for the username and password. Let's give some values here and then send. So now we see the response. The response, have you mentioned here? No, but it's coming from the standard errors dot error handler. So that's how we use this and build this template. This template is again like a template. You know, you can use this while developing an API as a reference. Right? If I go to the design center and create a new API, then let's call it as a new test API and create a spec. So I think you are getting what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to develop a design an API here. So here I don't want to write everything like I have the only knowledge I have is on my requirements. Like I have to have a resource which says releases, right? And it has a get resource and get method, and the body would be applications JSON, sorry, get method, right? So, and also responses 200. So I would focus mostly on what my assigned task is rather than importing and doing all the stuff. So in that cases, right, you can just go here to the exchange dependencies, and as I said, we can import health check, standard errors, and authentication, and add three dependencies instead of writing all the code again. And here in the, we can go back to the template API which we already designed. So you can just copy all of this and paste. And this also uses the standard errors. Right, in this way, within few minutes, we can complete a complete design of an API with all the standards, if you see. So that is what we are trying to see as a onboarding process, like build a template so that any developer can use that and saves a lot of time. Isn't it helpful? And then let's go back here. We just saw all these topics like importing the dependency from exchange and refer in the code. We saw that. And so Alex just asked what is the difference between the users and traits. So trait is users is a keyword where we use the traits. Like these are all the traits. We use them using users keyword, and then we define the traits. And we cannot define a trait using users keyword, but traits will be mentioned using traits keyword. So if you go in here, here we are mentioned as a traits. Whenever it may be mentioned as a traits, this raml will understand that these are the reusable components.
Yeah. Where do you apply traits, Jyoti?
We apply, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. We apply wherever we want to use certain component, like we want to put that in the library and we reuse, we refer to that. That's when we define it as a trait. We can also um, define responses, requests also in the trait. And then we once we raml understands that's it, it's in the library. A library can have any many others like traits and different other things other than traits. So it's like that.
Yeah, I would like to add. Yeah, traits is used for resource types,
Yeah.
as a library for the resource type. So you added, it's basically just a function. So if you have a get command, all the reusable traits for the get method of the REST API, you will put in the traits. And then for post, delete, and put. And then uses is if you want to reference a library or fragments or data types, you will use uses to refer another RAML module.
Yes. Thank you, Alf. Now we have seen so this is the designing part is taken care, right? Like we have a template and we can refer that and develop our API design few minutes. So now let's jump to our next session, that is creating API template. So in well create for this thing, let's I'll walk you through to on how to create the template API. We'll create a project and name it as a template API, and then implement all the um, common configurations that you would feel as required for a project or a API. We'll put all those into one API, and we define them, that API, and also publish that in the exchange so that any developer can just download that single API and rename to his own API, whatever he wants to develop, and start building the core logic which is supposed to do, by not worrying about the other configurations which are already taken care in the template. That is how to do that, we'll see that. And then after once we create, we'll publish it over to the exchange again. So for that, let me open up my Anypoint Studio. So MuleSoft has two things. One is the Anypoint platform, and the other one is the Anypoint Studio. If this is too small, one moment. One moment, guys. I'm just trying to increase the screen resolution. Is this better? So let's create a template project is just like any other project. So we'll whenever you open the Anypoint Studio, and then there you can right click on the package explorer and create new project. So this project can have a name of like template API, since you're trying to develop a template. And then you just finish the click on finish, then that will open up as a project. So once you have the project, you put all the efforts in developing this single API, template API, with all the standards, so that this is a replicate. People use it as a replica for all their APIs. If nowadays the clients are trying to design templates, one for experience, one for system level APIs, and one for um, process level APIs, three different templates, and people just import that template and start developing their projects. So you can do like that. So in this template, the API, you have this template API spec dot XML. This is like the main XML, if you see. So this has a listener configuration, right? And this listener configuration, I have not mentioned, if you are on premise, right, you can take advantage of the domain project. So domain project is a API where you define most of the uh, common modules again, which can be used across the board. Like in this domain project, the way to build domain project is like, it's simple. When you right click and create new, you will have the mule domain project as a option. So if you select that and name the project and click finish, you will get a domain project like this. So this domain project will have its own properties, which goes on prem, right? And this has some of the configuration, like listener configuration especially. So this has the port and the protocol, HTTP protocol, and also this have the global properties, like which environment you want to use, like UAT, test, pre-prod, prod. And if you have a nodes, then you can deploy this, because this acts like a backend for all the APIs. And if you have business groups, then you can mention what business group you want to use. And common properties, like whenever we have properties in this API, we use this configuration properties to define the properties. Like it has the mule environment. Earlier here we saw that it is a UAT, right? And then the mule background, for example, we saw it as a supermarket. And mule node, it can be node 1, node 2, how many nodes you have in the on-prem server. So based on that, I define my YAML file. So whenever uh, server is trying to process the on this environment, on this business group, on this node, then it refers to this property file. That's what it means. This property files behaves as per this configuration again, with this host name, port name, and the details. Like if you have a certificate, then you can mention its file name and key password, key store password, and the privacy key password, private. So that's how you define the common. These are across all APIs, and you don't have to build all of this for every API. So you can just mention this in one domain project, right? And also the key. Since MuleSoft started using the 16-digit um, length of key, so we can mention any key here, which acts as like a key for any passwords. And secure property config is something where we use to secure the values or passwords. So using this global element property for the secure property config, we mention where the key is. Like this is the mule.wall.key, so we are mentioning the key is mentioned here as a global property. That's how it takes. It can be mentioned here or from the runtime as well. To get the runtime properties again, you can go to the run configuration. In the arguments, you can mention the mule.wall.key and the value that acts as a runtime property, but this acts like a global property. Both are same, okay? And once you have them here, if you notice, I have the listener configuration, right? Which with this configuration, so my API which I developed, the template API, I haven't mentioned any listener configuration here, if you see. So this is taking the listener configuration from the domain project. Once you have the domain project built, you have to so this is a domain project, right? You have to go to the use the Maven to take help of Maven and then add it to the local. Like you perform the Maven clean install, this will install on your machine. Then you will domain project is accessible through in your machine. Like once this is on the local, then you, whenever you have the API which you want to refer to the domain, right, on the properties, you can mention in the project, mule project, you can choose a domain project here. It appears once you install on your local, and then apply and close. Then this will start. Even if I don't I can choose in the listener configuration. Even though I have different listener configurations in my API, we can choose the one from the domain project. It's just not this, there are many things you can take from the domain project, okay? In that way, it reduces a lot of configuration, duplicate configurations. And here in this API, we can have the global.xml. Here I have mentioned the error handling strategy. Like I have error handler and then on error propagate and on error continue with a different type. So here my type is any. So whenever we raise an error in a project, that comes in to this error handler, and this will call the subflow I mentioned here, and it looks for any status if it has, or if it doesn't has, then it will proceed to this. Even it has or doesn't have, it will be null if it doesn't have. So it comes into this logger and logs these attributes, okay? And then we have a choice. If we don't have, then we are looking if we have. So this error handler, it's up to you on how your organization wants. It can be customized. but that's not something on our focus. Our focus is to use the configurations, right? So here, these are all the most of the configurations you saw in the domain project. So if I don't have to use the mule.env again, because unless I want to override, right, for this API to run locally or for dev or something, then I can use this global properties to override. If I delete this, this API gonna take the configuration from the domain API. Okay, so I don't have a listener here, if you see, right? So that's how it works. And once you have this template API, now let's try to import the raml which we developed earlier, right? So if you right click and go to the um, anypoint platform, there you'll have download raml from design center. So if you click that, hmm, okay. So it's asking me to log in, so I just did. So you can also configure here. I'm trying to add a account again. It didn't recognize for the first time. Hmm. I think we are running little out of time. So normally you can import that API which we designed here, and this once this is done, this is just the same thing which we downloaded there. It's just that you can go here and anypoint platform and download the raml through design center, and login domain does not exist. So you can log in here, it will work. I downloaded it through just using the same method. Login to session. And then once you'll find the template.api which is published once you log in successfully. It's not taking for some reason. Once you get this, then it will ask for an option if you want to generate flows for this API, and if you click yes, then that this name of the template API spec will change according to the raml name. So if I am creating some system API, then that will be system slash hyphen system API name dot xml. and this will automatically generate all this. But you can come here and change the configuration to domains projects, right? So you click on the, make sure you go here, click on the properties and change it to domain API. And once you have this, you can test this project on your local. And you can also have the M units completed for this, so that whoever imports this project will have all these details like a complete package. They don't have to worry about the property files, naming conventions. All the implementation can be implemented in this implementation.xml, and this template API spec will completely take care of all the routing and also the health check as default. And the global.xml will have all the configurations, including the encryption keys, secure property config, all this. These are all taken care. So the developer can just go import this template.api, rename the project to whatever he want, and start implementing the core logic. Right? That makes everything easy. It saves a lot of time. So if you see, my application is deployed, and this is how the I see the console, just as we see in the design center, right? It's similar. So I click on try it and click on send. Health check call success. I don't know if you're seeing, if it is too small, I'm sorry. uh, so we made the call success like running and app name. So it's all taken care. So once you have this template API, you can uh, just export this as a deployable archive file. Okay, and then click next and then save it. Once you save that as a jar file, then you can go back to the exchange, and here you can publish new asset and enter the asset name and type as a custom and choose the file and then publish. So if you do that, that will come up in this way as a custom, and then every you can give this template API document here on steps what to do, like import it, rename the project. You can mention every detail, every single detail here, and it's very user friendly, that a developer can read and implement at the same time. So you just come here and click on download. This will download as a jar file, and then we'll just create an import. We'll import as a developer. Right now I am the new dev onboarded, so I need to develop my project. So I'll just reuse this template API we just designed and rename the as a Salesforce sys API, and then finish. So this will generate a Salesforce system API for me with all the standards, and I can test this application. I also have everything taken care. I have the uh, most of the dependencies, right? And name, and also we'll just rename this artifact ID to the Salesforce, right? And then save this, and just as we have performed the same step earlier, we come here and you have to use the template, raml template, and create the system Salesforce system API template there, sorry, the API there design, and then you can import through this.
Yeah, you probably need to reboot your IDE.
Looks like, yeah. So yeah, this strategy of handling the templates to a developer will save a lot of efforts, and most of the companies started doing it, and they're really liking the way MuleSoft have these templates. So
Yeah, I would also like to add, like in the Anypoint Exchange, you can, if you don't have experience yet with the templates, there are some accelerators that you can find in the Anypoint Exchange, like based on your industries. If you're looking for something that is relevant to insurance, or whether in your or banking or different use cases, you can find it on the Anypoint Exchange, and then you can do reverse engineer instead of recreating everything. You can also use that as your reference to build reusable library.
that's true. Yeah, if you are interested in exploring, there are a lot of good things which are developed and published, so you can just go through them. That's true, Ralph. So the software requirements for everything we have done so far is just Java, Mule design, time with the studio version of latest, and the Mule runtime of the latest. Okay, we have seen the demo so far, and we'll have some quiz time. A very uh, fun oriented quiz time. If you all are ready, then please log into this www.menti.com and use this code. Once you are ready, let me know. We'll have a small 5 questions quiz time. Let's see who wins this round. Please, I can see whoever is joining. One moment, let me present. I see a person joined. 2 people. 3, 4, 5. Nice. Do you need the code again? Sorry. This is playing with me. 2667 5057. We got 5 members so far. Six.
Should be 8, excluding 3.
Yeah. Maybe some fall asleep during the presentation.
You'll get
Just
the free certification voucher, whoever answer first, top. So try to use this opportunity.
that's nice.
Yeah, I think there are 2 other people missed to join. Wait for a couple of minutes and then you can start. They're not joining.
Okay.
I think you can stop recording by this time.
Okay. Oops.